July is super busy here at the flower farm. Today we are going to be doing some cover cropping. We'll talk about what we're doing with our Lisianthus to delay blooming and a bunch of other stuff. So let's get going.
This season, we're proud to partner with Advancing Eco-Agriculture, providing regenerative solutions for growers, and greencoverseed.com.
So it's garlic time of year. You can see the leaves have yellowed back on our garlic, so that means it's time to pull them. Now, I had some of the hugest garlic I've ever had this year, and I think it's just because of our soil health. I really don't have any secrets. But you can see that when I pulled them up, they did have these little bulbules on them. So these are little bulbules. They're different from a garlic clove. Look at how big these are. So normally we'd be replanting the garlic cloves, but this year I am saving all of these little bulbules and I'm going to be planting those. So this is what we've been doing in the past. And so by replanting these, we're basically doing perpetual garlic harvest. They might take a little bit longer to get full size, but because we're planting them here in mid-July, they should be full size by next late summer to harvest from. So just a little way, if you want to keep going from your garlic harvest, just pull off those little bulbules that they create underground and replant them. I went ahead and did a quick little soak of those bulbules with some water and some mycorrhiza just to help kind of get that soil life up and running around those bulbs. And then we're going to plant them in. Now, all of the ones that I harvested, I cured for a couple days in the sun. I just can't get over how big some of these are. They're like onions. Speaking of onions, I have these Egyptian walking onions here in the field next to the roses. So I'm deadheading those because otherwise they do tend to propagate and spread. And then I'm cutting back the greens and I'm using greens to mulch around the roses because that allium scent can help deter some pests. So I'm just going ahead and placing them around the base of our roses. You can see I have one small rose back there, and this is one that I got from Grace Rose Farms. I wasn't sure how they were going to do because I've heard mixed reviews about the Grace Rose Farms roses, but these ones, honestly, I've been pretty pleasantly surprised. They all looked pretty good at shipping. I didn't see any disease issues. They were all pretty good size. This one is Persuasion, which is going to be white. I have been mostly deadheading them because that will help those roses establish their root system a little bit sooner. But you can see the roses are nice, tight cabbage roses. And all of the ones that I ordered are pretty thornless. So typically I like to look for roses that are more thornless just because it makes it nicer to harvest. This one is called Golden Mustard, and this one I did let bloom. I wanted to see how the color was, and it starts out kind of a tighter yellow, and then as it opens up, it turns into this kind of peachy color, so excited about that. We're going to move on to the Lisianthus, and you can see that we've got our Lisianthus budded up here. Now, I am experimenting with doing a later pinch this year, and I'll tell you why. Typically, when I grow my Lisianthus, I pinch them when they're much smaller, about 3 leaves, and while that does help with the branching, it doesn't stagger the bloom succession that much. So what that means is that usually I end up getting about 1,000 Lisianthus blooming at one time, and then I don't typically get a second flush. But you can see if I pinch them a little later, they do start to branch from up above. So what I'm experimenting with is pinching them here at this stage as some of them are budded up, and I'm hoping that that will give me a more dramatic succession of my Lisianthus. I'll keep you posted and let you know how this does. It's a little bit risky. All right, moving on, let's take a peek at what else is blooming. We've got the feverfew, our second succession of feverfew. We've got our straw flowers here, and you can see these straw flowers are the ones that I would harvest for drying before they fully opened versus the ones that I'll harvest for use fresh, which I tend to harvest when they are more open, more like this one. And the reason that I do that is because those ones that are already open are going to go to seed if I hang them to dry, and they kind of turn into a bit of a mess. So I like to harvest the ones that are fully open for vases and the ones that are closed for drying. Hope that makes sense. I did do some carnations this year. I happen to live in the carnation capital of the world, Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and we're seeing how they do this year. I've been pretty happy with them. Over here, I've got a cottonwood that seeded itself into the field, and honestly, it's just been doing so well that I have hesitated to cut it down, but you can see the roses underneath it are suffering a lot, so I'm just trimming it back. Now, cottonwoods are native. They're one of the only native trees, actually, where I am, so I am going to let it grow a little bit. We'll see how it does. I might regret that later. In fact, I probably will. Over here, we've got a patch of the field that didn't grow back. It actually used to have milkweed, and it didn't do that well this year. So I'm going to be filling in the gaps with a buckwheat cover crop. I love buckwheat. I'm going to do a whole dedicated video on this. If you want to learn more about the buckwheat cover crop, stay tuned for this coming week. But I'm inoculating it with some BioCoat Gold from Advancing Eco Ag just to help, again, get that soil life up and going, especially where we've had bare exposed soil for some period of time like we have here in this patch. So this is a great crop to put in as an underplant or as a patch. Again, if you have kind of a bare spot in your garden, buckwheat is going to grow quickly. It's going to start germinating really easily. This is what we had here before, which was the milkweed. This is the last one that's kind of survived. You can see it's got some oleander aphids on there. That's all totally normal. I don't worry about any of that, but didn't reseed, didn't come back. So again, we're left with this bare patch. So I'm just going to clear out any weeds or remaining grass, but it has been pretty bare. So again, the buckwheat's going to be nice because it's going to cover the soil. It's going to help get our soil life up and going. So if you have little patches here and there where stuff isn't growing, you can just do this. So we're scatter sowing this one into the soil. Buckwheat germinates pretty well even in drought conditions, so I'm not worrying too much about putting it next to the drip line. But if you are in a really dry area and you have drip lines, you could just put it right next to the drip line, if that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and scuffle it into the soil, and then I'm topping it with a layer of burlap just like we do for all of our zinnia seeds. That's because that's going to help keep the moisture in the soil. So if we do get some rain, it's going to help keep that soil moist until it germinates, and then I'll go ahead and pull that burlap off once we get germination and seed establishment. But it's going to really help for the meantime. I'm also going to do a little buckwheat underneath my tomatoes in between. So again, I've got some bare soil here. The buckwheat is really great at attracting beneficials, so it's going to help keep pests off my tomatoes, but also it's going to just fill in any bare soil, add some organic matter, get that mycorrhizal and all that soil life up and running. And you can see this soil definitely needs a little organic matter. It's a little sandy. So I've just scattered it in next to the drip line and closed it up. This is what the buckwheat looks like when it's blooming. It's so cute. And before it goes to seed, you can see this one is starting to go to seed. I just grab it in my hand and I just literally break it right at the stem, fold it over. You don't have to pull it, just fold it. And that'll terminate the buckwheat if you do it right as it's flowering. And you'll be rewarded with all kinds of beautiful beneficial insects like these painted lady butterflies. I just enjoyed watching them for a while today. Let me know if you have any questions about what we did this weekend at the farm, and we'll be back with more details on the buckwheat cover crop. Let us know what you want to see. See you guys around here next time.